long ago, we went ahead and did some pretty major suspension maintenance on this WJ Grand Cherokee. Well, we're at the next stage where we've got a couple more things to do. Today, we're going to go ahead and be replacing the motor mounts on this 4.7 liter V8, and we're also going to take care of the back axle a little more. We're going to do the wheel bearings on the outer edge of the axle tubes, and we're going to go ahead and redo the parking brake shoes. So today, we're going to go ahead and go through those and show you how it's done. So we've got the Jeep up on jack stands, gives us a little bit more room to work, and we're taking a look at our passenger side motor mount first. I'm hoping this is the more difficult one so we can kind of, go through the fire first and get it removed, and then maybe have smooth sailing on out. Now that I've said that, I'm sure the entire job is going to go absolutely horrible. But anyway, on this passenger side motor mount, a couple things to look at. This is an 18mm nut. You got an 18mm bolt on the other side. This is the bracket that attaches it to the frame. This is a cast piece, that's the rubber isolator, and you've got 4 bolts that attach it to the engine block. The 2 down here, these are 15mm, very easy to get to. The 2 up top, also 15mm, and incredibly difficult to get to. So, it's going to be tight to show camera views of this removal, so I'll do the best that I can, but in the meantime, one thing I can definitely do is go ahead and just show you some of the positions I use to get these broken loose. Now the ones on the bottom, now that we've got it jacked up, we've got plenty of room for a standard box-in 15mm wrench. Access is very good. Access is very good. Let's go ahead and try to get a view of the top. Alright, we're up under the Jeep now, and I've switched to the smaller camera just so I can hopefully kind of fit it in and show you a few more things. Hopefully the picture quality turns out okay. But as you can see, we're up underneath the Jeep. I'm actually right under the front axle, and this is our passenger side engine mount. So again, we've already broken loose the 2 lower bolts that attach to the engine block, and I'm going to show you some tricks on how to get to the upper ones and break those loose. So, bringing the camera back down under here. Okay, let's see if we can see up there. Try to adjust the light. Alright, I don't know if you can see that or not, but right up in there is the head of the bolt. It's a 15mm, and that's the top of our motor mount. So we're going to use our wrench, but we're going to use the open end. Alright, so using our 15mm open end of our wrench, we're actually going to be able to go up above, and there's enough room to get a little bit of swing on that movement, enough to break it loose. You may need to turn the wrench. As you can see, that changes the angle that you're hitting it, depending on which way you need to turn. Now the big thing you gotta do, you're upside down, you gotta always remember, good old lefty-loosey, righty-tighty. You're up underneath, things are twisted around, just make sure you're not trying to tighten the thing when you're actually loosening it. Alright, so in this case, that means we're going to be pulling the wrench this way. We're up underneath looking up. So, alright. Try to get a view of this without my arm being in the way and blocking all the light too. So, alright, that's a little bit better with the light. Alright, so we're going to go up there. And remember, we're going to want to pull it this way. So, get up there. Enough to fit it on, and then there's actually clearance up in here. I know my hand's kind of in the way. I've already broken this one loose, so I'm kind of cheating on the view here, but it's kind of hard to do holding the camera. Alright, so once it's there, you'd actually have enough movement to pull it about that far. And then if you needed a little more, you can reposition and do it again. So this particular way I found, I was able to get that top nut loose, or top bolt loose. And then it's actually, at this stage, it's finger tight, which is nice and handy. Now that's actually the easier of the ones up top. Next we're going to move on to this one, which is pretty much impossible to get a camera view on. Alright, so now we're going to show you the last bolt and how to get to that. And that one's a little tough. It's actually kind of blocked by the frame bracket. In this particular case, in terms of serviceability, here's a good indication. Got this light right here, kind of shining back, hanging down from the front of the engine. And then I've got a 500 watt shop light pointing up. And I can get good light here, but where the bolt is, it's blocked by that bracket, so we're not even getting any light. So I'm going to try to use a flashlight, see if I can't illuminate it a little better. There it is. So that's the bolt we're looking for. So I've actually found in this particular case, kind of laying up under the Jeep, got my legs pointing toward the driver's side, got everything jacked up. I'm going to use the box end of the wrench. I can get a view of the bolt. I can actually see it from where I'm laying. Get the box end on it, have it sticking out the front there, and then we'll get enough turn on it. So I'm going to turn that flashlight off, free up my other hand, just rotate the view. Sorry for the people getting headaches watching this, but it's quite a challenging bolt to get to. So, alright, so again, I'm going to come in like this, and once again, an angle. Are you going to want to come in like this or like that? Well, you're going to have to flip it to find out. Let's see. So I'm going to try this way. There we go. I really wish you could see. Alright, ooh, there we're on. Alright, there you go. So we've got our wrench like that, and that gave us enough to get on it. And make sure we're on tight, and then again we can go ahead and turn that loose. And this one you can get several turns on it. It's actually not that bad. Maybe the one in the back's a little harder, but this one took me several tries to kind of figure out exactly how to get the wrench on it to get a good turn. Kept trying to come from the other angle, it wasn't working. So hopefully that's helpful, and what we're going to do, we'll switch to the other camera. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and use a set of 18-inch box end wrenches. We could use a ratchet here, there's actually enough room. But we're going to go ahead and break loose the center bolt through the isolator. Alright, so now that we've got all those bolts broken loose, all we got to do now, get a block of wood on the jack, get that engine supported, go ahead and get those bolts out the rest of the way, jack that motor up a little bit, just enough to get that motor mount to slide out. And then all we got to do is go ahead and get the new motor mount in, probably lower the motor a little bit and have our jack probably drop it too far and have to adjust it 50 times. But once we get it all lined up, we'll go ahead and just finger tighten those bolts that are really hard to reach, and then we'll have to tighten those bolts that are really hard to reach, torque the bolts that are really hard to reach, and then do the same on the driver's side. So yeah, simple. So we got the oil pan supported by a jack and a block of wood. Now we're just up here getting these loose. We've already got the top one up in the back taken out. Just reach up there, it was all finger tight. This one's a little tighter here, so we're using our 15mm wrench. Alright, this is probably going to be impossible to see, at least first. We got that bolt out. Now we just have the bottom two. One's coming out just fine. Let's check this back one. Yep, so these will spin out just fine. Then we'll have all four of the bolts loose on the engine block. So that one came out good. This one. So now we just got to take out the center nut. We'll jack the engine up enough that the bolt loses tension and can be pushed out, and then the motor mount should slide out. Hopefully I don't bump the camera. Go ahead and remove the nut. That's a good sign. We got the engine supported. The bolt's gonna slide out nice and easy. All right. Let's remove the nut. And slide out our bolt. Motor mount is clear. Let's go ahead and drop it out. Drop all the two central wiring. All right, here we go. And that is one collapsed motor mount. All right, so here's our old motor mount and our new one. Let's take a look at the old one first. You can kind of see it looks a little deformed, but let's compare it to the new one and you'll really see the difference. Alright, so there's our new one, and you can really see the actual rubber isolator is quite collapsed and deformed on this one when compared to the new one. So this is what's been causing our motor to sit low in the car, and also some of our vibration problems. So we're going to go ahead and get this installed and see if we can get everything aligned and bolted up. Alright, so we got the new motor mount up. I've got one bolt on the engine just really loose, holding it in, as you can kind of see there, just so it doesn't fall. And then right now I'm using the jack to try to position that center bolt. If I can get that lined up, I think we're going to be pretty lined up on the engine side. So let's go ahead and move the jack. So I'm going to hand hold this camera. I actually broke my little tripod, the cheap little one that I had, so I'm not high enough to use a regular tripod, so I apologize. Alright, so I got it. I did leave this in just finger tight just so it doesn't fall on me. And then I was able to kind of shift it and move it around. I had to lower the jack a little bit and then kind of jack it back up, make sure it was pushed up against the engine block. And then as you can see, the holes lined up fairly good there, but it was enough to get the bolt in the back and then push through the front. So we're gonna go ahead and get the nut on there hand tight, just so that way we know we have that done. And let's see if we can get the rest of these bolts in finger tight. If so, then that'll be our passenger one installed. Once we got that center bolt in, I did have to drop the engine just a couple inches and then very slowly jack it back up, all while making sure I could get these finger tight. Once I got one of them going in very smoothly finger tight, I got lucky. The back one went in just the same. So far the top rear one went in finger tight, so it looks like we're aligned. At this stage I'm just doing probably the more difficult one at this point. Catch a few threads and we'll be doing all right. There we go. All right, now I just got to go ahead and get them all finger tight, and we'll tighten up the center, and we'll be able to remove our jack, get everything torqued down. All right, so we're here taking a look at the driver's side motor mount. We're going to do the same we did on the passenger side. I'll go ahead and show you some ways that you can get a standard box end wrench on all those bolts on the engine side. And hopefully that'll be helpful. One thing to note on this end, I've seen some guides online that reference removing the oil filter. I'm going to try to do it without removing the oil filter. This is on the 4.7 liter. I don't think you have to. I think it would just get you a little extra room. So, all right, let's go ahead and look on the bottom. I've got a camera down below. Hopefully you can see these things too. This one, again, nice and easy. You could even use a ratchet on it. That one behind it, it's a little dark back here, but again, much the same. The upper one in the back, see it without hitting anything. There's our upper one in the rear, and this one actually, it looks like it's far up there, but again, very easy to get the box end on. Got plenty of clearance. The biggest thing you want to look out for is the wiring for the oxygen sensor. So the only kind of difficult one is the front upper, which is right there. And in this particular case, and I know our little shop light here is going to get in the way, I have found, have the wrench go on like this and go behind this hose and up over the bracket. Block the light so you can't see. Okay, you can kind of see we're behind this hose. And then that gets us up on that. And then we have plenty of room, even with the oil filter in place, to go ahead and break that loose. And you can move it about that much. And oddly enough, doing it this way, I'm not even hitting the oil filter. I'm hitting the block just above the oil filter. So hopefully we don't have to pull that off for any other reason. I think we can just use a standard wrench here to get this loose. You can see that's the only other reason you couldn't fit a ratchet here with the oil filter in place to get your center bolt out. But hopefully we don't have a problem. So let's go ahead, same as the passenger side. We're going to go ahead and break all of these loose, and then we'll go ahead and support the motor. We'll get everything taken off and drop the motor mount out. We're getting the nut off the front of the center bolt. Got our engine supported. We actually had to raise it just a tiny bit to get the bolt to be able to spin in there. So hopefully we've got it just in the right spot. We can go ahead and pull the bolt out. Pull it out. Alright, here's our old driver's side mount, and here's our new one. Let's take a look at the old one real quick. We're going to see that it looks collapsed, and we've also got a fair bit of tearing in our rubber isolator. Let's go ahead and take a look at the new one for comparison. You can really see just how collapsed this old one is when you line it up next to the new one. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and install this new one just the same way we did on the passenger side. We learned a few tricks on how to manipulate the jack. I think we're going to do the same thing, where we maybe just get one bolt started just to kind of hold it up there so it doesn't fall on us. Get the center bolt in, and then we'll go ahead and manipulate everything, get the engine side bolts to line up. Then once everything's in finger tight, we'll go ahead and tighten everything up. Alright, so I got the center bolt through. And I gotta admit, this side so far has been a little bit more of a pain. I actually had to jack the engine up pretty far to go ahead and get it in. And now that our mount can move a little bit, I should be able to slowly drop the engine and get these to line up. So I'm gonna give that a try. Alright, you can see we're starting to line up here. We might need to get a dead blow hammer or pry bar just to get everything aligned right. So let's see if we're close. All right, so after getting the center bolt through, I was able to get the bottom two bolts started, as you can see there. Now, what I had to do, after getting that center bolt done, I went ahead and lowered the jack. Everything popped into place and lined up just about perfect. And then I did have to come in just a little bit with this pry bar and pushing in here. You can see just a tiny bit of movement on that motor mount below. I also came up against the engine block in between in here and was able to push it as well, and that was just enough to move it that extra millimeter to get everything to line up and spin in. So hopefully the top is lined up. If it is, we'll go ahead and get these on. We'll put the nut on there, and we'll be in pretty good shape. Alright, just a quick update. We've got our top bolts in. So everything is aligned and back together. Now, it wasn't totally simple, so I'll just give you a few tips. I've got a just kind of pry bar thing here, and I had to come in here and use that to kind of push the motor mount a bit. That, in addition to changing the position of the jack, and that moved the top bolts in just enough alignment to go ahead and get them started. So right now everything is down finger tight. We've got our center bolt through. So at this point we're going to go ahead and tighten everything down. All right, we got our engine mounts in. So at this point, everything's torqued down on the front, both sides of the engine mounts. And we're gonna go ahead and move on and head to the middle there and replace the transmission mount. All right, so this piece right here is our transmission mount. This is the next piece we're gonna replace. We've got 4 bolts that attach it, and then of course the center bolt. This is very similar to the front engine mounts. What we're gonna need to do then is move the jack to the back here so we can support our transmission. We'll go ahead and loosen everything up and get that pulled out and replaced. All right, so much as we did with the front, we're gonna go ahead and just show you some bolt access. So the 2 in the back on the top, easily reached with a box end wrench. As you can see, I've already gotten these broken loose. The 2 up front, again, box end wrench on the passenger side one. There's no problem reaching in. And same on this side, you'll have no problem getting up in and onto it. But I did find that the position of the drive shaft, since I have it up on the entire vehicle up on jack stands, that did cause a slight bit of problem. It got kind of difficult to pull. A ratchet will fit up in there, and especially if you've got a movable handle, you can get up there and get that easily. As for the center bolt, access is not a problem for a box end wrench, and the ratchet as well. We'll have no problem using a deep well socket. Alright, so everything's broken loose, so we're going to go ahead and just get these bolts undone. You can tell some of them are already finger tight, and I'll be cleaning my lens after this with all the dust being dropped on it. There we go. Alright, so we're going to get the rest of those out, and we'll come back as soon as we're ready to pull the piece out. Alright, we're getting our 3rd upper bolt nice and loose. Just see if this one's loose. Finger tight yet? Yep. Alright. Alright, there we go. Alright, now, right now our center bolt is pretty tight. So we're going to see if we just need to maybe raise the jack a bit. Okay, and that gives us a little bit of space to move this and then hopefully turn that out. Alright, there's our center bolt. And like I said, I've got the transmission raised just a tad. That's going to give us just enough room. Go ahead and pull this out. Alright. There we go. Alright, we're going to go ahead and install our new mount. Nice and lined up. Alright, we'll go ahead and get our center bolt through. Actually, looks as though our old one was collapsed so much we're going to have to jack the transmission up a little more. Alright, let's see if that's enough. There we go. Perfect. Alright. Let's go ahead and get our nut started. Okay, and we'll go ahead and get these pieces lined up. Alright, so we go ahead and jack the transmission up a little more to give us some good play. So we can go ahead and get these started. Hopefully they'll align pretty easy. And they won't. I'm trying to basically just pull things into alignment. There we go. Should work out good. Let's see if these align now. Not quite. Alright, so I've come out from under the Jeep, brought our new transmission mount out because I just can't get the bolts to line up. I have a feeling I know why, and I wanted to compare it to the original casting to be sure. And it's kind of a suspicions confirmed deal, and also let's talk a little bit about the quality of some aftermarket parts compared to OEM. Alright, so what I think is happening is this back edge here kind of butts up against the transmission. I think we're bottoming out on this one, and then it's sort of rotating. I can align one, but one isn't aligned. So let's take a look. On the OEM piece, that bit of the casting is nice and straight, nice and smooth. On this aftermarket piece, not quite. It's not straight, it's not smooth, and it's got a peak right about here in the casting. So I think this peak is actually hitting the transmission, which is why I'm feeling a little bit of rotation like this, which is essentially causing this to not butt up. When I put it dead straight on, it bottoms out so that both of these won't fit. So what I'm going to do, I've already checked, the bolt holes do line up perfectly between the two castings, so that's a positive thing. So I think all I got to do is clean up this casting piece here. So I'm going to go ahead and get the grinder and just grind this smooth to match our OEM piece. Alright, so as you can see, I've taken the angle grinder, just had it handy, went ahead and ground it down a bit. It's not going to be perfectly straight, but I think it'll give us the clearance we need. We'll go ahead and compare it real quick to the OEM piece. Alright, let's look again at our factory piece, and then we'll compare after grinding on the aftermarket. And it looks a little better. I think that might be enough to do it. We're going to do a test fit, see if it lines up. If so, we'll spray a little paint where we ground down, and then we'll go ahead and reattach it and hopefully get everything lined up and be done. Alright, so after grinding that edge, we were able to get all 4 bolts to align, so not too bad. Just a little bit of cleanup work on the casting and it fits. So what we're going to do, we're going to take off these finger type bolts. Just want to make sure they align. We're going to get a little spray paint on the part we ground down, protect it from rust. Alright, now that we have those finger tight, we're going to see if we can get that middle piece to line up. We're going to have to lower the jack just a tad. Alright, try to do this slowly and not block view. Alright, almost. Let's see if that does it. No, I think we're a little too high. I'm going just a tad. Okay. Just nice and slow and I'll check. About a ½ inch. There we go, I think that will do it. Yep. Get it aligned, go a little further. Now that we've got the one side in. Alright, just a tiny bit more. That probably will do it. Just drive it home. There we go, our center bolt is through. We've got all 4 attached to the transmission. Just got to tighten them down and torque them. We've got our center bolt and nut on. So I had to do a little modification of this aftermarket part, but now at least we've got everything connected. So I'll do the final tightening on it and we'll check back. Alright, so we've got the 4 attachment points to the transmission attached. We're going to go ahead and tighten up our centerpiece. We'll make sure everything's torqued to factory spec. And pay special attention to these. If this is a cast aluminum piece that you're screwing into, you want to make sure that you don't mess up the threads. They're going to be a lot softer than if it was a piece of iron. Alright, we're all squared away with our transmission mount. Alright, so what we have here is, I just got an assortment of tools. You know, when I looked at those motor mounts for the first time, I'll admit it was a little daunting looking in terms of the serviceability and the accessibility of some of the nuts and bolts, but I just wanted to show you, we didn't need any special wrenches or weird offsets, even ratcheting box ends, stubbies. We just did these tools did all 3 of the mounts, the trans mount and the 2 engine mounts. So I used these two 15mm wrenches. Could have gone with just this one. This was probably the best one. It was a little shorter, got into some tighter areas. I used an 18mm. This 3/8 ratchet with the pivoting head came in real handy. This 15mm socket, 18mm deep socket, our torque wrench, this little pry bar to help get things aligned, dead blow hammer to help drive the center nut bolts through if we needed it, and of course our jack to move the engine and everything. But I just wanted to show you that, you know, even though it looked like our accessibility was tough, sitting and looking at it and devising the best way to go about getting to those nuts and bolts, there's many ways to go about it. You want to pay close attention to the jobs you're doing and really kind of think about them, think through how you're using the tools, and sometimes we get lucky like we did today. We don't need anything special. Alright, so we're here in the Jeep. We're going to go ahead and give it the first start since putting in the new transmission and engine mounts, and see if it's smoother and see if we notice any of the issues we had before. Alright, so first thing I can tell you, it already feels smoother. Second thing, the strange vibration noise that I was hearing in the exhaust is gone. That's good. Second, let's try putting it in gear. There was a noise it would make. You kind of feel the engine and trans shifting as you would move in and out of gear. Oh, this feels right. This feels good. Okay.